Hello, my brothers and sisters. We're going to be doing part 28 tonight. We're going to be talking about Abimelech. He was the one of the judges after Gideon. He was one of the judges after Gideon. This was a different type of judge. Just going to give you a brief summary of him, then we'll just go through the scripture and talk about him. This was a guy that was very ambitious, and he wanted everything done his way. And he was a very selfish individual, and he did not seek God about being the king or judge of Israel. He just did it on his own. So here's what I have to say is when you do things on your own with God, don't expect for it to work out and last too long. Because God will sooner eventually, when you don't talk to him about something or he's not talking to you about his will, he's going to shut you down. And there's so many things going on in this world right now that God isn't pleased at. And it reminds me of Israel when they wanted a king. And God gave them a king. And they didn't want God to be their king anymore. But they chose a man king. So God gave them what they wanted. Because a lot of times we don't know what we want. We just say this is what we want and think this is what's best for us. But God knows what's best for us. And it's better to ask God like David did. He constantly asked God about his life. He constantly talked to God all the time about his life. And then when he did wrong, he repented and stayed in the right fellowship with God. That was one thing. That was the one best thing that David did to teach us that regardless of what we do or how we fall, we can always come back to God. And I patterned my life after David. I patterned my life after Paul. But most of all, I patterned my life after Jesus Christ. And I always consult God in whatever I'm doing. And this is what Abimelech didn't do. A lot of the other judges did. And then after this lesson, the next lesson, we're going to talk about the other minor judges. But the main thing is having a relationship with God and talking to God so he can talk back to you. And you will be in right standings and fellowship with God all the time. Not just some of the time, but all the time. And this is how we must be. This is a must that we must do what God asked us to do. And so I'm going to read a little summary of Abimelech. And it says here, Abimelech, one of Gideon's sons, served as a judge of Israel following the judgeship of Gideon. He is the first mentioned in Judges 8, 30 through 31, where we read Gideon had 70 sons of his own. He had 70 sons. For he had many wives, his concubines, who lived in Shechem, and also bore him a son, who he named Abimelech. Gideon was with the tribe of Manasseh, and had led Israel to victory, despite humanly impossible odds. Judges 7. After his victory, he became wealthy and had several wives, including a concubine in Shechem, who became the mother of Abimelech. So this is how Abimelech came on the scene. And here's where it says, Abimelech sought to rule over Shechem by eliminating all of his opponents. Do that sound familiar? Eliminating all his opponents, namely by killing all of his other sons of Gideon. Judges 9, 1 through 2. All were killed except Gideon's youngest son, Jotham. Abimelech then became king of Shechem. And Shechem is the key to this whole lesson. Shechem was a town not too far from Samaria, and it was in between two mountains. And one mountain was Mount Ebal, and I can't think of the other mountain, but anyway, it was between two mountains. And Shechem was in the center of Israel. It was the central of Israel. So this here is what I read here about. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Shechem and why it was so important to gain the people's control over Shechem. Why it was so important for him to get to know Shechem, the people there and the leaders there, because he knew he had to go through the leaders to get what he wanted. Mind you, he never asked God anything. God never said anything to him about it either. And it says here, Shechem was a place of promise. First mentioned in Genesis 12, 6 through 7, Shechem was the location of Abraham, where Abraham stopped at the tree of Moab, and received God's promise of the land. So now we see why it was so important, because this is the land that God had promised Abraham as well. And so this is where Abraham lived, and this is also where Shechem became part of the promised land of Israel. Was given to Kohathites, and served as a Levitical city of refuge. Shechem was the place where Joshua remains were buried. During the time of the divided kingdom of Israel, Shechem was the capital of the northern kingdom for a while. So now you get to see how important Shechem was and why Abimelech wanted it so bad, because it was the capital. This is where most of the people were. So he wanted to be king over this place, Shechem. And then the next part says Shechem was a place of commitment. That's the second part. Number 3, the third part to this is Shechem was a place of worship. 4th, Shechem was a place of man's sin. So you got four parts here that says and tells you about why Shechem was so important. And the second part says Shechem was a place of commitment. In the area of Shechem, the Israelites were reminded of God's conventional relationship with them. You see, which he had first made to Abraham before they entered Canaan. The Israelite had been instructed to pronounce the blessings and the curses of the law on Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. So these are the two mountains that separated. It was like they had to come down through the split. Samaria's up here, the two mountains right here. It came all the way down a little river, that they came all the way down to Shechem is over here. And that's why it was so important. That land was so precious because it was a part of the promised land that God had promised Abraham. And the third part says Shechem was a place of worship. When the Lord appeared to him at Shechem, Abram built an altar to God at this site. Abraham's grandson, Jacob, also built an altar at Shechem, called it El Ehilu, Israel, or Mighty God of Israel. Even in the time of Joshua, the altar at Shechem was a holy site of the Lord. Now you see why it was so important that Shechem, Abimelech wanted this to be king over these people, because this was a very important part of Israel. It had a lot of ancestral history, the promised land, the worshiping. This is where Abraham worshiped God at the altar and offered sacrifices to God. So you have to see that there's a part here where people can get so enticed over money and prestige and power that they'll do anything to get what they want. Not what God want to give them, but what they want. So we in the church must not be this way. We must not be power hungry. We see it all the time in the election, how some people are just so power hungry. Whenever you find yourself being so power hungry, that's when you lose sight of God. And that's when God is not in it. He has nothing to do with it, but you're on your own doing it yourself. And this causes friction against you and the people. Eventually, it's going to cause friction. Eventually, people are going to lose their relationship with you, and they're going to see that you are not for God. You can lie all you want to, but you're not for God. They're going to see that you are from the devil himself. Because if you don't love people the way you should, and you study trying to oppress people, God ain't in that oppression. God is not in it. Every time certain people in the Old Testament oppressed God's people, God punished them. As you will see here, God's going to do some punishing here also. And the next one is Shechem was a place of man's sin. A Hivite chief named Hamor was the father of a man named Shechem, who lived in the city that bore his name. Shechem raped Jacob's daughter, Dinah, and two of Jacob's sons avenged their sister by slaughtering all of the men in the city, including Shechem and Omar. In this time of the judges, the Shechem sided with Abimelech. No, Shechemites sided with Abimelech, and son of one of Gideon's concubines. Abimelech positioned himself as king among the Shechemites, killing all but one of Gideon's other sons, Jotham, the surviving son, pronounces a curse on Abimelech. The youngest son pronounces a curse on Abimelech for killing all of his brothers. He escaped by running and the Shunamites. And after 3 years of the city of Shechem turned against the world-be king. In response to Shechem's rejection, Abimelech attacked the city and killed 1,000 men and women. And see what happens when the people rebel against you? Like I said, if you don't go to God and God don't come to you, then you're doing it all in vain. And sooner or later, it's going to catch up with you. And I'm going to read the book of Judges, the Judges 9th chapter. Abimelech rules over Shechem. And number 1 says, one day Gideon's son Abimelech went to Shechem to visit his uncle, his mother's brother. He said to him and the rest of his mother's family, ask the leading citizens of Shechem whether they want to be ruled by all 70 of the Gideon sons or by one man, which you're talking about himself. And remember that I am your own flesh and blood. So Abimelech's uncle gave his message to all of the citizens of Shechem and on his behalf. And after listening to this pronunciation, the people of Shechem decided to favor of Abimelech because he was their relative. Sometimes you cannot, because if God didn't say it, you can't do it. That's the same thing happened with David when one of his sons wanted to take over the kingship while he was still living. So sometimes it ain't meant for your family member to do or be in control. So you have to be very careful. Everything has to be ordained by God. If God ordains it, then it's okay. But if God didn't ordain it, it's not okay. And sooner or later, you'll find out the reason why. Because if God ain't in it, God gonna put a stop to it. Okay, number 4. They gave him 70 silver coins from the temple of Baal Berith, which he's used to hire some reckless troublemakers. Do that sound familiar? He's going to be king, but he needs some reckless troublemakers. He needs some troublemakers to help him out. Do that sound like God? No, it doesn't, does it? Who agreed to follow him. Number 5. He went to his father's home at Ophrah, and there on one stone they killed all 70 of his half brothers, the sons of Gideon. But the youngest brother, Gotham, escaped and hid. Number 6. Then all of the leading citizens of Shechem and Beth Mellah called a meeting under the oak beside the pillar at Shechem and made Abimelech their king. See, what happened here? The citizens, even though Abimelech was kin to them, and knowing what he had did, knowing what they had did, killed all the 70 brothers, it didn't make no sense. I mean, that's just plain out murder. To kill them so that none of them can be the king of Israel because of Gideon, his father. Gideon was a good judge, no question about it. He was a good judge. He did everything God told him to do. But that doesn't mean your son's going to do the same thing. There's kings in the Bible that, in the Old Testament, that their sons took over, but they were bad kids. you know. And God wants good people to be rulers over nations. That's what he really wants. And right now, we got a lot of kings, well, not kings, but presidents that's over nations right now. In 4 or 5 nations, dictators that want to run the show like they want to run it. It's not for the people, but it's for themselves. They want to get filthy rich. That's all they want. They want all the power in the world. They want everybody to live like them. And that's just not the way it's supposed to be. You got to give people their own life. But you as a leader must make sure that you do everything according to God, so that you and them will live prosperously. That's the way it should be. As long as you obey God, and Israel had the same problem. Every time they turned from Israel, when one judge died, they went back in the same old mess. Then they got these other people, Hittites, they just took over, made them very poor. But guess when God punished them for doing what they did, turning away from him and turning to other gods. And here's the relationship that I'm trying to point out, is that this man had no relationship with God. He had no business being in charge, none whatsoever. And he only lasted for 3 years. 3 years. 3 years. And this is, okay, the son that got away, the youngest son that got away, in verse 7, it talks about Jotham. He made a parable. He made a parable of the olive tree, the fig tree, the grapevine, and the thorn bush. I mean, this is really, it's awesome. Let me read it right quick. Number 7 says, when Jotham heard about this, he climbed to the top of Mount Gilrizim and shouted, "Listen to me, citizens of Shechem. Listen to me. If you want God to listen to you," see, he starts right off the bat. This brother, he knew God. And he knew God that if you didn't listen to God, here's what's going to happen. He said, in number 8, once upon a time, the trees, talks about trees now, decided to choose a king. First, they said to the olive tree, "Be our king." Number 9 says, but the olive tree refused, saying, "Should I quit producing olives, or should I quit producing the olive oil that blesses both God and people?" That's what the olive tree said. It's a parable. And when he says trees, it's talking about the children of Israel. It's not talking about a real tree, but it's talking about the children, the people of Israel. And it's this one olive tree is a person that wants to be a king, like Abimelech. So he's trying to describe that to the people. He wants the people to open up their wisdom, open up their eyes, open up their understanding, so that they can understand if you ain't doing it because of God, it's wrong. And Abimelech said, I curse you. I'm sorry, not Abimelech. But Jotham says, "I curse you." He put a curse on the town. Just to wave back, okay, it says the people, and then just to wave back and forth over the trees. Is this what you want this olive tree to do, just to wave back and forth? No. And then it says, "You be our king." Oh no. Then they said to the fig tree, "You be our king." Number 11. But the fig tree also refused, saying, "Should I quit producing my sweet fruits?" just to wave back and forth over the trees? Should anyone do that? You think about it. Should anybody stop what they're doing just to be a king? Just to be over the people of Israel? No, you got to be called to that. God said he will call. He will do the calling. Not man, but he will do the calling. He says, you be our king. Number 13, but the grapevine, oh no, I'm sorry. Number 12, then they said to the grapevine. All right, this is the third one. Then he said to the grapevine, you be our king. But the grapevine also refused, saying, should I quit producing the wine that sees both God and people? Should I? Just to wave back and forth over the trees? He said, no, I don't want to do it. And then it goes to the fourth one. Then all of the trees finally turned to the thorn bush and said, come, you be our king. 15. And the thorn bush replied to the trees, if you truly want to make me your king, come and take shelter in my shade. Come and take shelter in my shade. That's the thorn bush talk. If not, let fire come out from me and devour the cedars of Lebanon. You see? So the thorn bush don't want to have nothing to do with it. And what Jotham is trying to tell the people, don't have anything to do with Abimelech, because he ain't right. That's what he was trying to tell the people. 16 says, Jotham continued, now make sure you have acted honorably and in good faith by making Abimelech your king, and that you have done right by Gideon and all of his descendants. Have you treated him with the honor he deserved for all he accomplished? Now he's talking about his father. How a Gideon won so many wars, accomplished so much for God. Are you going to honor him? All that he accomplished? 17. For he fought for you and risked his life when he rescued you from the Midianites. 18. But today you have revoked against my father and his descendants. He revoked against Gideon, the judge, and his descendant Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Noah. He revoked against all of God's teaching that came all the way through them. Killing his 70 sons in one stone. And you have chosen his slave woman son, Abimelech, to be your king just because he is your relative? Just because. You're going to make him your king just because you're related to him. And he don't even know God. That's why the world right now is in such a terrible shape. Many countries, their father would be the king and they let their sons take over. And they wreck the whole place. They wreck everything. United States know better. They know better. They know the word of God. They know they are supposed to be living by the word of God. In the courtrooms now, I mean, years ago, they put the Bible up there and you had to put your hand on it. Everything was done by the word. But now even the courtrooms are so corrupt. Look at how many judges they put on the federal laws now in each state. Crooked folks, so that it will make it hard for you to live. They want to oppress you all over again. We cannot let, that's why it's so important to vote. And I'm telling you, everybody go vote. You need to vote. I don't already vote. I made it easy. I wasn't about to go out there and stand in that long line, but if I had to, I would, but I didn't. My ballot came to me, I signed it, and I took it in and gave it to the people. Vote, people. Please vote. I've been trying my daughter to tell her to vote. Never voted before. Vote. See, she don't know what I've been through, what a lot of us have been through, what it took for Martin Luther King to get our voting rights. People marched to do that, to get that done. People paid the price for that. Lewis, he paid the price. And now we gonna act like voting ain't nothing? I don't know what they're gonna do with my ballot. It don't matter. Vote. Remember what your ancestors paid for. Remember when we couldn't even vote. We had no rights. Now we have rights. Do the right thing. Vote. Go. Listen to God. We need everybody to vote. Everybody. For the right cause. We need everybody. Number 19 says, if you have acted humbly and in good faith towards Gideon and his descendants today, then maybe you find joy in Abimelech. If you did all this, maybe you'll find some joy in Abimelech. And maybe you won't. So if you didn't find honor in Gideon, you ain't finding no joy in Abimelech. That's basically what he's trying to tell him. And maybe he finds joy in you. Maybe y'all gonna find joy in each other. But if God ain't in it, I doubt it. I know not. You ain't finding no joy. Wherever God is, peace is. Wherever the devil is, that's where hell is. There's no joy in hell. Sorry. Number 20 says, but if you have not acted in good faith, then maybe fire comes out from Abimelech and devour the leading citizen of Shechem and Beth Millo. And maybe fire come out from the cities of Shechem and Beth Millo and devour Abimelech. Number 21. See, actually, Jotham is prophesying. This is what's going to happen to you. This is what's going to happen. 21. Then Jotham escaped and lived in Beer because he was afraid of his brother's Abimelech. After he got through talking on that mountain, he knew he had to go because he was afraid Abimelech was going to come get him. And he knew it. Because anybody that wants to try to take over, they do not like any person that's going to come against them. You can look in the White House right today, right now. If somebody goes against the president, what did he do? He started talking bad about him. He wanted to put him in jail. It's just crazy. This is a crazy world right now. And we cannot allow it fall in the devil's hand. We just can't allow that. And this is a good teaching just for what's going on right now. Black Lives Matter. There must be justice. There has to be justice. And there's one thing, people, I just want to let you know. It's God's will for us to live holy and righteous and in his will. But we are the ones that must do that. Regardless of what's going on, we must do that. And Regardless of our leadership don't do right, we still must do right. So God can reward us for doing right. Just like Daniel in the lion's den. He got put in the lion's den for doing what was right, praying 3 times a day. You see? We cannot allow the enemy to stop us from praying, reading the word of God, fasting, loving one another. We cannot allow the devil to do that. And this is division that has been brought in this country right now. That is not God. God is not the author of confusion and division. Only Satan is. So that's why it's so important to understand this relationship between God and man and the devil and man, so that you can understand how to call the devil's work what it is, how you can call God's work what it is. You cannot get them mixed up. You can't. But we as Christians, we must stand up and live according to God, Jesus Christ, so that people can see Christ in us. And it will compel them to come to Christ. We as Christians cannot live one way and do something else. Live for the devil the next way. We just can't do it. We have to stay on the path of righteousness all the time. It's a must. Oh, here we go. Shechem rebels against Abimelech. See, I told you it was going to happen sooner or later. And it says, after Abimelech had ruled over Israel for 3 years, 23, God sent a spirit that strikes up trouble between Abimelech and the leading citizens of Shechem. You see what I'm saying? God only put up with you so long. And that's what I tell you. If you trust God, God is only going to put up with wrong for so long. 3 years he let it be. Then now God's talking now. Right here, number 23 is the only time in Abimelech when God started talking. And 23 says God sent a spirit that stirred up trouble between Abimelech and the leading citizens of Shechem. And they revolted. 24. God was punishing Abimelech for murdering Gideon's 70 sons and the citizens of Shechem for supporting him in his treachery of murdering his brothers. You see, God is not only going to punish him, but he's going to punish the people that helped him. Understand me now. If you're a king, God going to punish you for doing wrong. And he's going to punish the people that surrounded you, your cabinet. He's going to punish all of you. He's going to get rid of all of you. That's what he did in the past. That's what he'll do now in the present. Trust me. You don't have to mark my word. Mark God's word. It's here. Right here. God going to do it. God's going to do it. You think you're getting away with wrong right now. Oh, no. You're not getting away. He's going to get you. That's why I'm so contented what's happening right now. Because sooner or later, God's going to step in. He's going to put a stop to all of this mess. All this hate that's going on right now, God's going to put a stop to it. There's going to be a lot of people punished for doing wrong. After stirring up hate, God is going to put a stop to it. 25, the citizens of Shechem set an ambush for Abimelech on the hilltops of the on the hilltops and robbed everyone who passed that way. But someone warned Abimelech about their plot. See, now Abimelech is scared. Number 26 says, one day, Gael, son of Ebed, moved to Shechem with his brothers and against the confidence of the leading citizens of Shechem. 27. During the normal harvest feast festival of Shechem, heard in that temple of the local god, the wine fell freely. No, the wine flowed freely. And everyone began cursing Abimelech. 28. Who? Abimelech. Who is Abimelech? Gail shouted. He's not a true son of Shechem. Uh-oh. Somebody came in town and told it on him. He's not a true son of Shechem. So why should we be his servant? He merely the son of Gideon. And this Zebel is merely his deputy. Serve the true sons of Hamor, the founder of Shechem. Why should we serve Abimelech? Number 29. If I were in charge here, I would get rid of Abimelech. I would say to him, get some soldiers and come out and fight. See, this brother ain't no joke. This is what Gail said. Come on out. We gonna fight. We gonna fight. We gonna see who gonna win this thing. You got to go, my brother. Number 30 says, but when Zebul, the leader of the city, heard what Gail was saying, he was furious. He sent messengers to Abimelech in Arumah, telling him, Gail, son of Ebed, and his brother have come to live in Shechem, and now they are exciting the citizens to rebel against you. Number 32. Come by night with an army and hide out in the fields. Number 50 says, then Abimelech attacked the town of Tebaz and captured it. 51. But there was a strong tower inside the town, and all the men and women, the entire population, fled to it. They buckled themselves in and climbed up to the roof of the tower. Abimelech followed them to attack the tower, but as he prepared to set fire to the entrance. 53. This is the good part. Now here is Abimelech attacked the city. In that town there was a tower, strong, what they call a strong tower, and this is where when the battle got too tough, they went to this tower, and everybody got in this tower to protect themselves. And a lot of them climbed to the tower to keep fighting. And it says, number 53, a woman on the roof dropped a millstone that landed on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. Number 54, he quickly said to his young armor bearer, draw your sword and kill me. Don't let it be said that a woman killed Abimelech. So the young man ran. So the young man ran him through with the sword, and he died. 55. When Abimelech men saw that he was dead, they disbanded and returned to their homes. 56. In this way, God punished Abimelech for this evil. He had done what he had done against his father by murdering his 70 sons. From 57 says, God also punished the men of Shechem for all their evil. So the curse of Jotham, son of Gideon, was fulfilled. Jacob's, who cursed Abimelech for killing his brothers, God fulfilled his curse. He fulfilled his curse. He didn't even want to be known through history that a woman dropped a stone and hit him over the head and crushed his skull. He wanted his armor bearer to kill him instead of the woman dying at the hands of a woman. He could not bear that. So this is how Abimelech died. He proclaimed to be the king and judge over Israel, and he was for 3 years. And God allowed him to be that. And then God took his life. God had his armor bearer to take his life. See, this is why it's so important to live for God. Because it surely is, I'm alive. If you live for the devil, you're going to get punished. If you play around with God, you will get punished. If you act like you serving God and you're really not, it's not in your heart to serve God wholeheartedly, but you just want to play Christian, just to be popular in the church, or just to show up and say that I'm a Christian, I go to church, but I don't read his word, I don't worship him, I don't fast, I don't pray, but you just want to be a part of the team and not be a part that's going to change the team to make it better. This is a team thing. With Christ, this is a team. And it takes everybody to play the part. So this is what I leave you with, my brothers and sisters. Don't do like Abimelech. Don't come to church just to be a part of the church and want to be the leader and not talk to God and serve God. There are many people have done it that way, and God destroyed them. Don't be one of those people. My unbelievers, if you come with a whole heart to serve God, so that you can show the people that's already in church, that's been there for years, this is the way you serve God. This is the way you do it. I have to be very honest. I mean, there's no time to play. There's too many things going on in this world right now for us to play around with God. God is not to be played around with. He proved that in his relationship. He proves that time and time again with all the people that he had relationships with. God is for real. But God is a loving God, merciful God, but he still ain't going to tolerate a mess. He won't do it. And I thank you, my brothers and sisters, for watching this video. And I pray that God will open up your mind and your understanding so that you can understand what the Spirit is saying to the church. Don't be moved by everything, but be moved by God. And God bless you tonight. God bless you. Until we meet again. Love you.